everybody. So my name is Lucie. I work at Criteo for the Reco model team. Sorry, with my right. So, like Alejandra said, I'm going to talk about how to make recommendations in a world without third-party cookies. And I'm really sorry, there's a bit of a hi guys. There's a bit of an overlap between my presentation and Julie, but hopefully that makes a point even clearer than the one she already made. And this is a very high-level presentation, so I start from the very beginning. What is a recommendation? So, if you spend any time on Google, you probably have seen these suggestions, ads. Each suggestion here is a recommendation. But recommendations don't have to be physical. On your YouTube feed, each YouTube video that you see as a suggestion after what you have watched or someone else has watched using your computer is a recommendation. And finally, and perhaps surprisingly, humans are recommendations too, in the context of dating. So if you have a recommendation of Gerard, 70 years old, as your best match, well, that's a recommendation for you. I don't know what to say. So hopefully we're clear on what a recommendation is. So now there's a bit of this overlap between Julie's presentation. So first, like Julie said, cookies are used to make better recommendations. Like she said, there's a distinction between first-party cookies and third-party cookies. So if you're visiting Sephora, and then Sephora is using this information to make recommendations, such as you might also like these products, these are recommendations using first-party cookies. In general, people don't really have issues with that. Like it feels natural within the flow to see these recommendations. Now, if you see the very same recommendation on a different website, like when you're just looking at the weather online, people might start to feel a bit uneasy. So this is where the third-party cookies are being used. And the idea here is that the same browsing history that was used to make your recommendation on Sephora are being used to make recommendations outside of Sephora. So I'll just go over what Julie already explained with the whole ecosystem. But basically, you as a user, you probably like free content. So the news website, knowing the weather for free. If, like myself, you're not that young and you have a Yahoo email, you also see these types of ads. So you as a user, you're one of the 4 members of this ecosystem. And so you have this free content. Oh, sorry. And then there's here Meteo Paris, who wants to make money because someone has to pay for the servers and the people working at Meteo Paris, right? They don't know anything about you. They don't know that you like Sephora or anything. They just contact the service so that someone makes ad for them, right? So that's the second part of the ecosystem. Then you have Sephora that wants to remind you that you forgot to buy something on Sephora, or that wants to make you aware of a new product on Sephora. So that's one of the merchants. And Sephora, they might do the recommendation on their main website, but they often go through a different service to make recommendation of Sephora. So companies like Criteo. So like Julie explained, there's a bit of this fight that happens between different companies who want to show an ad. And so if you win the fight, so there's no one fighting, it's just real-time algorithms. But if you win the ad, if you win the right to show the ad, basically what happens is we need to know what to put. First, we need to know who we want to show ads for. So here we decided for Sephora, but we have lots of merchants. We have Carrefour, we have La Redoute. So first you have to pick the merchant, and then you have to pick the product. So that's the topic of my talk. But hopefully we're clear on the ecosystem. You have a user who wants free content. You have the publisher who gets money for the the ads, given that they give you free content. You have Sephora who wants to make you buy something or who wants to make you aware of something. And then you have Criteo and all these other companies who are intermediaries and who will show the ads. And so to understand how the third-party cookies come into action, we have to understand how the recommendations are made. And actually, it's very simple, and that's probably the first thing you thought about. If you just pick Sephora, you just need a way to score the products of Sephora. So Sephora has 45,000 products. You're not going to put that in a banner. So first you need to decide how many products you want to show in your banner. And then you need a way to score each product. So first you need information, then a function. You have that, you have 45,000 scores, then it's trivial. You just sort and you pick the best two. But now you want to know what's the function and what's the information. So yeah, here it's obvious. Like when really you frame the problem the right way, it's very obvious how to pick the products that end up in your ads. So the scoring function, as a machine learning engineer, that's my bread and butter, but that's really not the topic of this conversation. You can do an if then else type of thing. Like if the price of the product is 10 to 20 euros, add plus 0.005 to your score, whatever. No one does that because there's something called ROI. And so basically, Sephora wants to make the most clicks and the most purchases, given that they are going to pay for the ads. And the best your scoring function is, the best, well, the more Sephora is happy, the more Criteo is happy. And you as a user might be happy as well. If I make recommendations that are completely what the fuck to you, you're going to be like, oh, this bloody ads. Like, right? So it's a win-win situation, really, if you think about it. But I have a bias. So in general, people use fancy deep learning models. Unlike the hard-coded rules, they have this problem where you cannot really fully understand why they give the score that they give, but you have some understanding. And they have a very good ROI. Now, what's really interesting is the input to scoring function. And that's where things get a bit tricky. So in machine learning, we call the input the features, and we have three types of features. You have the product features, the user features, and the contextual features. Product features was probably the first thing you thought of, like the price of the product, the image of the product, things like that. That's obvious if you want to score the 45,000 products. The user features were the most important ones, and you see the red box, they are the most controversial ones because they use third-party cookies. Like I said, if Criteo wants to show you Sephora ads on the weather website, ideally we want to know that you already saw that perfume that you like. And like I said, to not make stupid recommendations like, oh, you bought a TV on Carrefour 2 days ago, I'm going to show you the TV again, which is very annoying. So these are very, very powerful features, and you want to put a score of 0 for all the TVs for a while if we know that you just bought a TV. But the thing is, well, yeah, when you don't have third-party cookies, which is the case more and more for browser deciding not to use third-party cookies, then you just don't have access to this. And what you are left with is the product features, and like Julie mentioned, contextual features. Things like what website you're currently on, your browser. It's not the most useful feature you can imagine. Like for Sephora, it does nothing. But if you're on Carrefour, you might imagine that if you have a Safari browser, you might be interested in Mac or Apple, things like that. On the opposite, like if you have Edge, we might lower the score of the Macs. And time of the day, things like that. You can still make powerful recommendations. Like if you're on the Vogue website looking for, I don't know, covering your imperfections or something like that, then if you see in the product title of the Sephora catalog, high coverage foundation, all of a sudden you can still get a very good recommendation. But the fact of the matter, like if you're on the weather website, you cannot really go far with product features and contextual features often. But the thing is you don't have the choice. So when there's no third-party cookies, you just don't have access to these features. And I'll end with the special case of Chrome. So Chrome is interesting because it allows advertising companies to switch the contextual features with the user features. And you might say, well, but you just say we don't have access to the third-party cookies. Yes. So there's a trick. And the trick is that it's fair game to use your information if you're on the Sephora website. That's how Sephora makes a recommendation. And so if you pre-compute the recommendations while you're on the Sephora website, that's okay. But at the end of the day, Criteo doesn't want to show recommendations on the Sephora website. So what Chrome allows is basically to pre-compute the recommendations on Sephora, store them in something called an interest group, and then you can retrieve them when you're on weather.com or Yahoo or whatever. And so that's how you get the exchange between contextual features and user features, because you pre-computed your recommendations. So you cannot use the information that you're on weather.com and things like that, but you have access to the most powerful features. So that's worth it. But unfortunately, that's only on Chrome. So hopefully that was kind of clear. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.